Have you ever wondered what would happen to the Panda King eventually? What fate would have in store for him? What's next for this character? How's it going, guys? I'm Vivi and welcome back to another Sly Cooper video. Now, I wouldn't really call this video a theory, think of it more as a prediction. This video is like a part 2 of the previous video. In the previous video, I talked about the possibility of Clockwerk returning. I discussed the brain and all that. If you're curious about that video, I will leave the link in the description below. Maybe you'd like to check it out. So yes, pretty much, this video, guys, is a prediction based off that first video. I simply expand on the idea of Clockwerk returning in the future. And in what future am I talking about? Sly Cooper 5. Where and when to be exact, I will talk about it. But first, let's talk about the background of the Panda King. Why did I choose the Panda King? Why would I even predict such a thing? I'm sure a lot of you read the title and got surprised and reacted, of course. Why would I even think of the idea of the Panda King's death in Sly 5? Honestly, guys, the reason I came up with this idea is very straightforward. Knowing Clockwerk, I easily predicted this. And like I said, guys, before I dive into anything, let's go over his background a bit. The Panda King was originally part of the Fiendish Five. He was hired by Clockwerk to do some of his dirty work. Now the question is, who is the one who really killed Sly's parents? Is it Clockwerk? Is it Mockshot? Is it the Panda King himself? We don't know. Sure, we do notice an arm on Connor, but whose arm is that? It could be Mockshot's, it could be Panda King's. Well, by quickly looking at this picture, it doesn't really look like Panda King's arm. Now, after Sly dealt with Panda King, he served his time in jail for 3 years. Sly was 18 in Sly 1, in Sly 3 he was 21, if I'm not mistaken. One would think, if you're involved in the murder of someone, well, 2 people, we assume that both parents are dead. Okay, maybe not, maybe the mother survived, but Sly did say he caught up with my parents in Sly 3. But let's not get into that right now. The point is, if Panda King were the one who laid his hands on Sly's parents, I think he would have rotted in jail instead. 3 years? Something tells me during the investigation, when Sly was sent to the orphanage, the cops found out that the Panda King wasn't the one who actually killed the parents. He just barged into the house, got involved and stole one of the pages out of the Thievius Raccoonus. So that right there, guys, could be a small idea that Panda King wasn't the one who killed Connor and Sly's mother. Also, think of this. Panda King has a daughter named Jane King. When he barged into Sly's home, didn't he think for a second, what am I doing? I wouldn't want my kid to suffer the same loss. He was thinking about this deep within his mind. So if Panda wasn't the one who killed his parents, I'm assuming he's the one who broke down the door. Panda has a lot of strength, right? Or Mugshot could have been the one who broke down the door, but that's not the point anyways. All I'm gonna say for now is I'm hoping that the Panda King gets more character development in the movie. In what way? Like I said, he has a daughter. I want Sly to question him in the movie, assuming the Fiendish Five will be in the movie. You gotta think a bit realistically. Someone who has a daughter being involved in the death of the parents of another kid. Okay, sure, maybe the gang didn't know about Jane King in Sly 1, but in the movie, we have Bentley, who's a hacker and the brains of the team. Since the Cooper gang knows so much of these villains' backstories, well, except for Clockwerk, while all they know about Clockwerk is that he lived on for generations, they don't really know how he turned robotic. That's the thing I'm trying to say. Now, in the movieverse, wouldn't mentioning Jane King add a lot more character development to Panda King? Sure, we have Sly facing all of the Fiendish Five members, but Panda King could be a special case. A character which Sly could question. Why not bring up his daughter into this? Sly telling him, you have a daughter. Would you want her to suffer the same fate I did? Would your daughter want a father like that? These are just examples. Questions that can be asked by Sly in the movie. But Jane King wasn't mentioned in Sly 1. Guys, it's a movie. Not everything is going to be the same. So I really wouldn't mind these small changes. Anyways, let's get back to the point. Let's not ramble too much about the movie. I'm still wondering, how did Clockwerk even convince him to join the Fiendish Five? Was he forced against his will? Was his daughter brought up? Was he using his daughter against him, you know, to convince him? I believe these sorts of questions can be answered if they bring back Clockwerk in the future. Now, in Sly 3, the gang needed help. To get into the Cooper vault, they needed a demolition expert. Bentley came up with the idea of recruiting the Panda King. Of course, they weren't up for it, especially Sly. He was involved in his parents' death, right? So what happened next? General Tsao He abducted his daughter, forced her into marriage while he tried. And why is that? He tried creating a strong family lineage. The Panda King, he was exiled. He became a monk and lived in solitude. So the gang and the Panda King, in exchange for saving Jane King, the Panda would help the gang with the Cooper Vault. There's one thing I always loved about the Panda King is him talking to his criminal, darker side, on the mirror. What he's seeing on the mirror are his inner doubts. He's talking to his own feelings. He believes that cooperation between strength and being humble is a good father figure, the yin and the yang. In other words, he believes balancing light and darkness is the way to go. In Sly 1, he followed the darkness, mainly. So technically, sure, the Panda King has a soft side, but that dark side of him still exists, so he can snap whenever he wants. But will that happen? I don't think so. At this point, his daughter is what keeps him sane. If his daughter were to die, I think he would go back to his old ways. He wouldn't care about his life anymore. The only thing that mattered to him was his daughter, Jane King. If he were to lose his daughter, that's when he would turn insane and begin to lose it. So what's next? Sly 4 happened, and what's gonna happen to the Panda King? Sure, he's no longer relevant, but we're still talking about a guy who was involved with the death of Sly's parents. Again guys, who did he work for originally? Clockwerk, this maniacal bird, owl, ruthless, cold-hearted, would do anything to achieve his goal. Clockwerk, he went to great lengths, replaced his body with metal parts. Think of this guys, what would Clockwerk say or do once he realizes that a person who used to work for him worked for the Cooper gang later on? Cooper, a family line which Clockwerk despises. That is the reason why he lived on for generations. Knowing Clockwerk, wait, by knowing Clockwerk we only saw him in Sly 1. We don't know much about him. Clockwerk is a very mysterious and interesting villain, my favorite in the series. Sure, he only appeared once in the ending, with a couple of sentences, but those sentences were enough to explain what kind of monster he is. So by knowing how much of a monster he is, he's most probably going to go after the Panda King and try to kill him, because of who he simply is. By nature, he's fueled with hate. He would do anything to try and achieve his goal. If that means taking the life of someone who used to work for him, he's gonna do it. What kind of goal are we talking about? Okay, he kills the Panda King, but what is he trying to achieve? Satisfaction. It's who he is, he's ruthless, he's cold-hearted, and a monster. Okay, let's assume this will happen. When will it happen exactly? When will this take place in Sly 5? During the ending. I know what you guys are thinking right now. Wouldn't that be considered as a cliffhanger? Clockwerk returning? Well guys, look, it would be far less worse than the cliffhanger we got in Sly 4, which involved the main protagonist. I imagine Clockwerk coming back stronger, more agile than before. I remember seeing this fan art somewhere, but I'm not gonna show it in the video. I'll just leave the link in the description below, and you guys will know what I'm talking about. So now guys, hear me out. This is just an opinion. I believe bringing back Clockwerk is a very good idea. You have to bring something fresh to the table. Fresh? What's fresh about Clockwerk? We had him in Sly 1 and Sly 2. Okay, I've been reading this many times in the comment section. Oh, we don't need Clockwerk. He was already in Sly 1 and Sly 2. Clockwerk only appeared in Sly 1. Sly 2, it does not count. That was Neela. And if you watched my previous video, Clockwerk's brain was perhaps not even attached. If that brain is somewhere, someone will eventually find it and rebuild Clockwerk. Why would they assemble Clockwerk? Build a new body? Who knows? Manipulation? Knowing Clockwerk, it wouldn't be far-fetched to think that this villain manipulated the person into bringing him back. Why even bring back Clockwerk? Because Clockwerk has many untold stories. But hey, Sly 5 will most probably have more time travel. What if the gang met Clockwerk in the past? Sure, they might see him, spot him somewhere, but messing with Clockwerk in the past will cause paradoxes. So no. An easier approach would be to simply bring him back in the future. Bring him back stronger. Clockwerk reborn. But no hate chip, how is he supposed to function? That's the point of this new Clockwerk. His new form wouldn't require it. Whatever that chip was made of, magic, science, no more. Why kill off the Panda King? Why did I come up with this? Look, if you want a game more story driven with more drama, there you go. Want to make the story a bit more serious? Want to get rid of that whole, oh, Sly 4's story wasn't serious, ridiculous, it was comedic, too childish. This is one way of achieving it. Like, come on guys, you're telling me Clockwerk won't even think of at least coming into contact with the Panda King. Panda King, he used to work for him. He's no longer in jail. I'm sure that Clockwerk will pay him a visit. But what about the other members? They're still incarcerated, we assume. And here's a scenario I imagined in my head. Clockwerk speaking, "Such a fool to think I could trust you, Panda. How easy it is to fall into their trap." Fool. I could imagine Panda meditating and feeling Clockwerk's presence and going, "But how? How is this possible? I thought Cooper dealt with you." There's this conversation going on. Panda tells him, "I no longer follow the dark. I no longer follow my criminal side. That's not who I am anymore. Cooper showed me a better path." Clockwerk, he gets enraged. He decides to put his new body to the test. He does something and then boom, Panda King, he collapses. Wanna add in more drama? Add his evil laugh. And guess what? Jing King comes running and she screams, "Dad." That's one very dramatic, emotional scene right there. And the scene could transition to the team returning to the lab, only to realize that the lab is fully destroyed. We can say Clockwerk found their laboratory and destroyed the place completely. Think of this. They could make multiple games focusing on Clockwerk and finally understand what happened in the past. Sure, we could see a few things in Sly 5, but they'll have to be careful with that. We don't want any paradoxes. If you want more Sly Cooper games, you have to keep one thing in mind. The developer would have to think of new villains every time. Okay, maybe 2 games could focus on one villain. That could be Clockwerk, perhaps. If you come up with a villain every time, you don't want the game to feel too repetitive, following the same formula over and over again. I'm not saying to completely change the feel of the Sly Cooper games. I'm just saying we need something fresh, something unpredictable, something that will add drama to the Sly Cooper series. There's a bunch of themes in these games. They shouldn't be afraid to make it more serious. Who knows, maybe they could make this a secret ending, Panda's death. And who knows, we got a Sly movie teaser. Okay, it's no longer 2016, but I'm talking about the visuals. Okay, let's put the whole thing of Murray looking weird aside. I really like how Sly Cooper looks in CGI, the whole atmosphere, the whole place. It's fantastic. Perhaps make this new trilogy full CGI? After Sly 5, perhaps? Anyways, I'm gonna leave it at that. I will talk more about this eventually. And of course guys, all of these ideas that I just discussed is me imagining Sony greenlighting multiple games at once. But a guy can dream, right? Last thing guys, Clockwerk. He's seen a bunch of things. We could have a lot more backstory. Bentley siblings, Carmelita's parents. This villain, he flew everywhere. He's seen many things. Why not expand on this whole thing after Sly Cooper 5? After we all realize that Clockwerk is back. I know some of you might be thinking that Sly 5 is the last one. I thought of this as well, but if they do bring back Clockwerk, Sly 5 could actually be the introduction of a new trilogy. In other words, a brand new saga. The Clockwerk Saga. Be honest guys, why do you think that Sly 5 is the last game? Well, apart from the whole idea about the sales and all that, but story-wise, why do you think Sly 5 is the last one? Because I don't know, maybe the developers might run out of ideas? I'm sure some of you thought of that. What villains are they going to come up with next? What will they do in order not to make the games feel too repetitive? So tell me what you think in the comment section below. Were you surprised? Were you shocked? Were you expecting such a video? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, I've been Vivi and thanks for watching.